Okay, so we are going to here share the screen, get to our topic for today. Back at the beginning here. So the topic of our conversation today is cognitive decline and Alzheimer's dementia. The reason I want to talk about this particular topic is it is increasingly on the rise. It's kind of like with autism years ago, where I would give a talk and be 20 people in the room, and I ask how many of you know somebody with autism, and maybe two or three people raise their hands. And now, if you ask the same question today, and almost everybody in the room knows somebody with autism. Fortunately, the same thing is happening with those that have Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive decline. Years ago, he'd ask that question, maybe one or two people knew somebody that was having a challenge with those conditions. But now, yeah, ask the same question, and pretty much everybody in the room either knows somebody or knows somebody that knows somebody. It spreads so quickly, and there are definitely things that we can do to avoid this from happening, slowing it down. Like I said, different things we're going to be talking about with this particular presentation that will show us how we can hopefully avoid this cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia type of issues that we've been having in our society. So we'll start with first thing. There are five things we want to look at in order to help stave off cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and dementia. The first thing we want to talk about is sleep. We need to get our sleep because when they're sleeping, that's when our brain is healing and repairing itself. We should shoot to get about 8 hours of sleep a night. I know sometimes that's tough, especially if you have kids, but the bottom line is you need those 8 hours because within that 8 hour time frame, you need that time for your brain to go through light sleep, transitioning through REM sleep into deep sleep and then back and up. It's that transitioning that really allows your brain to heal and get better. If you can't get into that deep sleep component, that's once again where the resting and repairing takes place. If the transition is not working like it should be, you can imagine like you're a couple things mentioned. One would be if you're sleeping and you're dreaming or you're knowing, having a dream where you're playing baseball and a foul ball or a baseball gets thrown at you and you jerk yourself awake to catch the ball. You're not in a deep sleep phase. You're more in this transition state. So you're never quite getting to deep sleep. And that is extremely important. Hold on one second here. Extremely important to help with the brain and its ability to heal. Um, One other thing to keep in mind is the more sleep you have, the less anxiety you have. Imagine if you are a squirrel walking through the forest at nighttime and you hear some flapping wings. Well, you don't think it's a butterfly. You're going to think it's what? An owl, something that's a threat that's going to get you. You're not going to lay down and take a nap at that point, right? No, your anxiety levels start to increase because your nervous system puts you on edge to make sure that if something does come after you, you can get away and survive. And so once again, being able to decrease stress, which we're talking about next, and stress management is a key component of helping with many things, but number one thing is keeping your brain healthy. So we're looking at stress management. When your body undergoes stress, it releases a hormone called cortisol that releases more sugar into your bloodstream to get fuel to your muscles so that you can fight or flee or get away from whatever the threat might be. However, cortisol in high amounts can be very poisonous to your hippocampus, which hippocampus is a part of your brain that deals with memory conversion, long memory to short memory to memory. All those components come from function of a healthy hippocampus. The problem is your brain can't tell the difference between physical stress or chemical stress or emotional stress. It just knows that something's stressing your brain and stressing you, and you need to deal with that. Well, the only system it has to deal with that is the fight or flight system. So now once again, your anxiety level starts to get increased because of the amount of stress that you're undergoing, and it just becomes a vicious cycle until eventually the body becomes so stressed that it can't get into the shift into the rest and repair mode. The damage keeps kicking in, and eventually somehow or another you get hurt. Scan that fight, flight, or freeze mode. Blood moves away from the brain to your muscles. Right? If a bear is chasing you, you are not concerned about doing calculus problems. You're worried about getting away from the bear. You can do calculus later. Digestion is disrupted, so a lot of that indigestion, heartburn, gas, diarrhea, constipation, all these different symptoms that people are coming down with or having challenges with. It's because their stress levels are too high. Their digestive system is not being allowed to function properly because your body's in this fight or flight mode, which does not care about resting, repairing, and rejuvenating and digesting your food. Also, the ability to get rid of toxic waste in your body becomes less and less. So these toxins that would normally be excreted in your body by your liver and your kidneys gets to be so overwhelming that the toxins start to move out into your external tissues, embedding themselves in joints, ligaments, tendons, skin, all sorts of things, leading to chronic inflammatory reactions, which leads to inflammation and pain. Basically, inflammation causes two things: it causes pain, it causes fatigue, which are two of the big things people come to see me in my clinic. Well, a lot of it runs back into this component of stress management and getting their bodies a chance to heal and not always be revved in the fight or flight mode. Coming from a nutrition standpoint, so we're talking about some good nutritional things. I just picked a couple of things. I mean, I could spend hours and hours talking about nutrition for your brain. One thing we want to talk about is these three things: magnesium, L-threonate. Magnesium is a component in 250 different enzymatic processes and metabolic processes in your brain. Magnesium is really important. They found this particular compound of, or this particular type of magnesium is the most absorbed or highly absorbed in your cerebrospinal fluid. And the cerebrospinal fluid is that nourishing fluid that bathes your brain and keeps it healthy. And so that particular, once again, type or component of magnesium gets into your body and helps your brain a lot more. Fatty acids or fish oils, most of your brain is made up of fat. We want it to be healthy fats, not the unhealthy fats. One of the most healthy fats we can get into our body that helps with brain health is the fats that come from fish. Third one is CoQ10. CoQ10 is it's called a limiting factor in fuel production. So in order for your body to be healthy, it needs to make fuel. Well, in this big chain of what's being used as far as fats, carbohydrates, and protein getting broken down into the components that we use for fuel, one of the things that helps guide the system is if I need to move products from point A to point B, and I had one skidster doing that, well, that works. But if I had 30 skidsters doing it, that would work a lot better. CoQ10 is that skidster. So the more CoQ10 you have in your body, the more molecules you can transfer through the factory that makes fuel, making more fuel for our bodies to be able to do all the things that we want it to do, especially resting and repairing. Now, some nutritional things that might be bad for us, or not bad, might be, they are food allergies. We want to make sure we check if there are any issues with allergies to foods. Reason being, if you have an inflammatory reaction in your gut, you're going to have an inflammatory reaction in your brain. And if your brain is undergoing chronic inflammation, your brain's immune system is a little bit different than your body's immune system, just for the point that inside the brain are these things called glial cells. They're like the gardeners for your neurons. They feed them, they dress them, they clean them up, they take the garbage out, all sorts of different things that they do to keep the neurons healthy. However, if there is an external threat, it's like the enemy's climbing over the wall, something's trying to get into the brain, the glial cells will convert themselves into from gardeners into soldiers. So now their main objective is just to kill anything or destroy anything that's getting into your brain that might be causing damage. All right. So unfortunately, in some instances, they become soldiers for so long, they never learn how to become gardeners again. And now you have a chronic inflammatory state within your brain. Your brain's essentially on fire, and the rest of your system is going to suffer because your brain can't get out of that fight or flight mode. You want to make sure you're under control of blood sugar. You have to talk about diabetes of the brain. That's what they're labeling now. Alzheimer's and dementia. There's this bad sugar regulation within the brain. But I actually find that the more healthier diet for people, especially the ones that are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, is a ketogenic diet. So more protein and fats, less of the carbohydrates. And the chemicals that we need to be concerned about is any food colorings and preservatives. They're neurotoxic. They cause the neurons themselves to fire so fast they burn themselves out and basically kill themselves. So we want to make sure we're avoiding food colorings and preservatives. Exercise, we need to find some way to move, some type of exercise. I don't care what it is, as long as you like doing it. Now, one of the easiest ways to exercise that we talk about is what's called HIIT exercise, or high intensity interval training. Essentially, if you can walk, you can do this. So the idea is that you walk for a minute and a half at a normal pace, just a gentle normal pace. Then for 30 seconds, you walk faster. Then after that 30 seconds up, you slow back down to your normal pace, quote unquote normal pace, for another minute and a half. And then at the minute and a half spot, you increase the speed for 30 seconds. And you go back and forth and back and forth. I believe you do it that 10 times, and then a final cool down walk for 2 minutes. It takes about 14 minutes, but that constant transitioning from fast to slow gets more blood to flow into the prefrontal cortical regions of your brain. This is where the majority of dementia issues happen, and a lot of it ends up being fuel supply. That's why the cells are dying and not being able to survive or giving the symptoms that they're giving you. The more fuel, the more blood that you can get to those parts of the brain, the better off and better chances they have of healing. So again, movement also inhibits inflammation and pain. So you need to keep the body moving so the brain remains healthy. And the last one, the one that people don't like to talk about, but it's true no matter what. The research on the benefits of alcohol, especially like wine drinking, they've been blown out of the water for a few years now. It doesn't matter how much alcohol you drink, even the littlest amount is always going to be toxic to your brain. It is always going to damage your neurons. Head injuries previous to drinking can cause the damage done by the alcohol to be exponential, meaning it can increase that factor of damage by a factor of 10, 100,000, who knows? We just know that if you've had previous head traumas, it seems that the alcohol contribution just causes your brain to become damaged faster and in a larger amount. Not here to judge you about whether or not you drink alcohol. That's your decision. I just want you to understand what you're doing when you're drinking it and the potential consequences from it. Examples of head injuries, because some people just don't understand what a head injury might be. Well, if you've ever been bucked up a horse or fallen out of a tree, been in a car accident, played contact sports, slipped on ice, wrestled with brothers or sisters when you were a kid, the challenge of it is back in the day, people thought if you didn't have blood coming out your nose or your ears after you hit your head, then you were fine. Now we know that you can be going 25 miles an hour and come to a sudden stop, and that's enough to give you a concussion. So once again, you got to be careful about how well and how much you protect your brain, because guess what? You only get one. So my main challenge to you then at the end of this presentation is, of those 5 things you went through, pick one and start to do it. Because the more of these things that you do, the higher probability you will not get Alzheimer's or dementia. Contact our office. We have coaches, we have assistants, we have resources that can help you in this goal of reaching a healthier brain. Different things we might have. We can do brain mapping and neurofeedback to help your brain. We have hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We do lab testing and nutritional therapy that's very inexpensive, and it can give us a ton of information about how healthy your body and your brain is. Here's all my information. If you have questions, feel free to call the clinic, leave a message, go to a Brain Core Bismarck. You can leave messages there as well. I just hope that this presentation helps someone and help someone, and God bless.